Welcome to the MarTech.org podcast.
Welcome to the MarTech.org podcast. I'm Mike Pastore, Editorial Director at MarTech. And today we're going to be talking to Tzvi Kopetz, who is the Vice President of Marketing at Lusha. Now, before we get to Tzvi, if you're working in marketing today, you're working with data. It has been called everything but the new oil to the lifeblood of marketing. And that's what Tzvi and I are going to talk about over the next few minutes, the types of data that marketers are using and how they're using it. Tzvi, welcome to the MarTech podcast.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me here.
All right, let's talk about the types of data marketers use today, and let's start with intent data. What sets apart marketers who are seeing success with their intent data from those who are struggling to see success when they use intent data?
You know, when I think about this question, it's like solving any other, like kind of like a big problem, or you're tackling a big project. You want to usually go first to the lowest hanging fruits, right? And using intent data, it's kind of like that, because you're first reaching out to or trying to address and make connections with the companies that has the highest intent, or let's say the highest likelihood to convert, because they are probably or have better chances that they are now looking for and shopping for your service. So utilizing intent for any type of marketing, okay, whether it's outbound, of course, or also when you do conversion rates optimization on a website, playing with intent and choosing your channel is the first thing you want to tackle. Okay, let's say in the marketing options that you have.
All right, another popular use of data for marketers is data enrichment. I think of data enrichment as kind of filling in the blanks. We get some information from some of our leads. We want to paint a full picture. We also want an up-to-date picture because people change jobs and locations and companies, and we need to keep that information up to date, even though they only supply it to us maybe once. So how are the marketers that work with Lusha using data enrichment?
Great one. So when you're let's say in your outbound motion, or when you're trying to generate leads, today you cannot go generic. You just cannot. It doesn't work. The customer, the users that go through various, messaging and advertising, whether through email channel or advertising on social media, etc. They just see through the ads if they are not personalized to them. And data enrichment is one of the ways to overcome this challenge. So what we're seeing today with our customers is mainly three, four things that are being used the most. One is in the ABM, account-based marketing. Customers are using data enrichment to make sure that the way they reach out to customers is with as much more personalized as possible. I'm, even experiencing it to dozens of emails that I get every day from different companies that they use my name. They use my, even one of the emails I got just recently was about how they know that I'm surfing, and they did some kind of connection to surfing, and they mentioned that I like to surf. I have no idea how they found out. It's not like I'm a big surfer, not at all. But somehow they used it. So that's one, ABM. The second is lead generation. Today, in your funnel, there's a marketer. You might have a form, and you want to remove any friction in the form and have as fewer fields as possible. You use companies like us, like Lusha, in order to enrich the data. So you don't ask the customer or the user that just fills in the form. You don't ask them to fill all the different fields. You ask them just for, let's say, a few basic ones, like say email or phone numbers, and that's it. And through our API, for example, they enrich the rest of the data: their first name, the last name, the job title, of course, company, location, etc., etc. So lead gen. Third thing is it's kind of like tied to ABM. It's called outreach. Just again, personalized emails with the enriched data. And lastly is lead scoring. We're seeing some of the customers using the data that is being enriched to score the leads better that they have and prioritize.
All right. So when marketers are out looking for data, whether they're looking at intent data, whether they're looking to enrich data, they have a lot of options. And, what we hear from marketers from time to time is, how good is the data? How accurate is the data? How old is the data? So you have a lot of options. You have a lot of vendors with, I would say, mixed reactions from their customers as to how up to date their data is, how accurate it is, how useful it is. What advice do you have for marketers who are looking at all these vendors and asking, what's the difference between them? How do they know which one to choose?
Yeah. So I would break it down to three areas, three parameters. One is the ease of use, the data coverage and accuracy. That's two. And third is compliance. So let's start with the first one, ease of use. I think first, you kind of have to be very self-aware of and identify the way you prospect today. So, because we're seeing so many ways of prospecting, some are doing it very manually. They scroll through LinkedIn and they use an extension, for example, the Chrome extension, to uncover business profiles. That's one way of prospecting, right? Another way, maybe a little bit more advanced, is using a lot of automation and connectivity, such as email sequences and connecting the data to your CRM and to other systems, etc. And I think the first step is identify the way you prospect, and then look for the solutions out there, such as Lusha, to make sure that your way of working really is being accommodated by that platform. And the ease of use of doing things is easy for you. For example, what we recently launched it's a flex search. It's an intuitive way to prospect and to kind of like make shortcuts in the way people filter today. Today, you go to the prospecting, it's very custom, and start filtering. Forget that. You have a flex search, you have an intuitive way using the natural language to do that. And that's like part of improving the ease of use of prospecting. So that's number one. Number two is data coverage and accuracy. There's no magic there. Just try and get a large sample of the data that is accurate in your CRM and just test it out. Compare it to a few vendors. Try, CSV enrichment, see if it works, if it matches the data that you're seeing in your systems, in your CRM, and try to see that if the vendor or has the right information for your industry. Sometimes it's the industry and the geo, it makes a difference. And the third is compliance. You want to make sure, be relaxed in that term, and make sure that the data that you're using to reach out to people, to call people, etc., was acquired, was acquired, you can say that, in a compliant way, and you can relax. So it's transparent. It's complying with all the GDPR, CCPA, all the other certificates that are there, and that's also important as part of the screening method, I would say, for selecting a vendor.
All right, and that's kind of a good segue to our next question, because that compliance landscape is constantly changing. There's new regulations here in the U.S. It goes state by state, which is very confusing for everybody. If we look ahead a year from now, given compliance, given kind of the landscape of marketing and data, if we were going to have this conversation a year from now, what do you think we'd be talking about that's maybe a little bit different?
Yeah. Just before that, I do have an anecdote to say that we just released a trust center on our website. So you can see state by state and see the compliance that is being required for different various uses, just for those who are interested. But that's back to the question. I think like a year from now, whether it's tied to compliance or not, I think eventually, we're in kind of like in an era that, or in a time of time, a period of time that we're going through some transition and transformation, and especially around AI. And I think a year from now, AI will be there. I'm not talking about the ChatGPT AI that helps you write your emails better and listen to calls and, of course, do all that. That's given. I'm talking about how companies like us use AI to make the users, let's say, life better. And when it comes to us, it's, let's say, closing the most deals or getting the most leads in the least amount of time, least amount of effort. And it's how we use data that we have and that we collect and we learn, and utilizing AI on it in a ways that I cannot go into the details right now. We're working on that. So a year from now, your work will be much more efficient, I would say.
And that's what everybody's looking for from AI. Get more done with less.
Exactly.
All right. Tzvi Kopetz, Vice President of Marketing at Lusha. Thanks for joining us on the MarTech.org podcast.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for listening to the MarTech.org podcast. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at martech.org/newsletters.